Hi, and welcome back to another episode of New, Old, and Songs Untold. I'm your host Nick, joined with my co-host Anna. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. It's been a while.
I know. We had a little break
Yeah,
there,
a little 2 week hiatus.
a little 2 week hiatus, but we're back. Today we're doing Arcade Fire, which was interested. Well, we'll talk about it, but I guess before we get into our top 10, should we do a little history or a little background of Arcade Fire?
Sure, yeah. So if you're not aware who that is, it's an indie rock band. They're from Canada. I think some of the founding members, grew up in the United States, but then moved to Canada at some point. So it was founded in 2000 by friends and classmates Butler and Josh Dow, and it's kind of a brother duo. So it's Win Butler and then William Butler, his younger brother. And then Win Butler is also married to a member of the band who I do not know how to pronounce her name, but I will try my best. Regine Chazagin, something like that. I'm not sure. But and then there's like a million other people in the band because it's quite large. But it was originally founded by Butler and Josh Dow, and it came to prominence kind of in 2004 when it released their critically acclaimed debut album, Funeral. And they've won a lot of awards because they're actually very critically acclaimed.
Mm-hmm.
That's like one of their staple characteristics, and the kind of like I think they met in high school. And then the first kind of like forming of the band was when they went to university. They went to Concordia and McGill, and they first began rehearsing material where they met Regine, who was actually a music student, and they apparently like all played guitar, but then they kind of tried to find people who played a lot of different instruments, because that's one of the like defining parts of the band, is that there's a bunch of different instruments going on. I was trying to see if I could see a list of all of them somewhere. Let's see. I can't find it. I saw it before, but you'd have to look up. There's saxophone, there's strings, there's all sorts of different. Obviously guitar and drums, and bass, but
it's
like,
not surprising after hearing them.
there's literally like when they perform live, there's like 12 people on the stage half the time, and there's kind of always a rotating cast of people who are playing in the band as they tour, basically.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so the first. We'll get into the songs more, obviously, but some of the interesting facts surrounding the albums were that Funeral that's their first album.
Yeah.
It's kind of called that because a lot of the bands had several relatives that died, actually. So especially the Butler's brother's grandfather died, and he was actually a famous composer named Alvino Ray. So he died, and then a couple other people died that were related to the band members, so that's why they called it Funeral, which
Gotcha.
I thought was really kind of interesting. And then after that, they obviously released Neon Bible, I think in 2007, maybe?
Yep.
Yeah. And what I found interesting about that is that they actually purchased like a defunct church in a small Quebec town, and they like use that as a recording studio, basically. They converted the church into a recording studio, which I thought was really cool. In 2007, they made their first appearance on Saturday Night Live, and that album was also very critically acclaimed. And then they released The Suburbs in 2010.
10.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that is almost like a concept album. I don't know, they're all kind of concept-y.
They're all kind of concept-y, yeah.
If that's a word.
Yeah.
But this one is, someone compared it to like William Blake's Songs of Innocence and Experience, which is a poet, but it's all about like it's kind of like the maturity of their band, I think, at that point. And it was actually released with 8 different covers, which I did not realize.
Huh.
Which is kind of cool. I've only seen like the one with like the car.
Yeah, that's the only
That's
one
like
I've seen.
I think that's the most famous one, but
Yeah.
apparently it had a bunch of different covers, which is kind of cool. And that was also very critically acclaimed. And then they released Reflector in 2013. And then Everything Now was released in 2016, and this one was one that was kind of iffy. Like, I think it had decent commercial success, but the fans didn't like this one as much as some of their previous ones.
Yeah.
Which was kind of interesting. Apparently, Butler was interviewed in 2020 on October 21st, and he commented about their 6th album coming out soon-ish, maybe. So
I'm sure with this year and kind of halted.
yeah, it
stuff,
says
but
during lockdown he kept working and wrote.
Yeah, I did read that.
Wrote
Yeah.
quote 2 or 3 albums.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see what they kind of do next, because with their last album they really went in a different direction than their kind of roots.
They did.
So I'm interested to see like where they go next.
Yeah, we'll talk. Well, is that all you got?
Yeah, that's basically it.
All right.
To me, they're like golden staples of the indie scene. Basically, I feel like they're like the number one indie band that everyone has heard of. Maybe not has listened to, but has definitely heard of.
You definitely knew what you've listened to all their albums before.
Yeah,
correct?
if you can't tell, I'm a big fan.
So we had two different experiences in that route. Where I did not know what to really expect.
Did you know any of their songs before?
I knew like 1 or 2.
Okay. Songs or albums? Songs. Okay.
So I wasn't quite sure. I figured they're probably good, but I almost thought they were going to be like too stereotypically indie.
Yes, which is we can kind of talk about this later too, because I had some like afterthoughts about this, but they're kind of known as like the pretentious, like, the indie band.
But they're not really though.
They're kind of like labeled as like the cool.
I know, but that's not how they
band.
sound. I would say like the Lumineers are more the like.
Yeah, I don't think that's how they are at all. But that's just how they always get like.
That's how I thought they were gonna be. So I was like, I don't know how much I'm gonna love this. So.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that was kind of my thoughts going into it.
So do you have the Spotify list?
I do.
Cool.
We have paper today.
Kicking it old school.
Yes. All right. So number 10 on Spotify was My Body is a Cage off of Neon Bible, 24 million plays. It came out in 2007.
All right.
What was your number 10?
My number 10 is Put Your Money on Me. So that is from their latest album, Everything Now. That's the only song I have off that album, because as most of the people who listen to this album, I was not a fan. It's okay.
I have one, and it's not that one.
Yeah, I think this album is just very different than a lot of the other stuff, so it's hard to like look at it in the like perspective of
I had
Arcade
2 albums
Fire.
I didn't like.
Oh, okay.
But 3 that are like top 25 albums I've ever heard. So.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, so this song, Put Your Money on Me, it details kind of an intense love, and it dives into various uses and effects of money on relationships. Kind of how it like changes people, and is kind of like a necessary evil, but is also kind of corrupting in some senses. And money in this kind of story is used as a metaphor to show Wynn's willingness to kind of save his relationship, even if it's like destroying him. And I listened to a podcast where he went on, I think it's called Song Exploder, where they kind of just like take one song from an artist and they have the artist come on and talk about it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So on that, Wynn Butler actually said that it was inspired by like sounds and feelings associated with a casino. That's where he kind of got the inspiration.
Gotcha.
He's also noted saying that Marvin Gaye's Sexual Healing, Blade Runner soundtrack, and vocal harmonies of ABBA also inspired this. And it's a weird sounding song. It's kind of menacing and like a little bit darker than their usual songs. I think it sounds kind of surreal, but has a really catchy, like, dark-sounding hook that keeps the song feel very driving.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Put Your Money on Me for number 10.
All right. My number 10 is Neighborhood, number 1, Tunnels off of Funeral, 2004. It came out.
That's a good one.
The song is about a young man's parents weeping in the next room as he secretly escapes to meet his girlfriend in the town square, where they kind of naively plan their adult future.
Yeah.
And kind of in that haze of being an adolescent and kind of not really know what they're talking about. It starts off like the song starts off simple and simple soft hum to an organ, which is awesome. I love that beginning, and then the piano comes in and then builds when his vocals like boldly come through the song. It's like a crazy intro to a song. It's very like recognizable, I think, as an intro. Like just it's very like unique almost. And like how we talked about them using all these different instruments, you literally hear it within the first 30 seconds of their first album.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So it's like
they have one of the most like grand sounding bands. At the same time, they're very like real though. Like they're very
and
like,
you can tell by their
guitar,
and they're like and like
hear...
they match it with like their like lyrical excellence almost to like each song too has like a pretty deep-ish meaning, I would say.
Yeah.
Because it's not simply just they're not like simply writing hits. It's a very unique experience going through these songs. But back to this song particularly, it's such a great song to start off the album, and it's such a great song to start off a great album.
Overall, that's like an amazing debut album. I feel like it's one of those that really stand out to me. Like they knew their voice and their sound, and they like did it perfectly.
And literally they start you off with the first 30 seconds into this song. So that was Neighborhood number 1, Tunnels, for my number 10.
We're just gonna be raving about them the whole time. No, I have some stuff I don't like, but
we'll talk about it after. We'll talk about that after.
Yeah.
All right, number 9 for Spotify is No Cars Go, Neon Bible, 30 million plays. That was 2007 when it came out. What is your number 9?
My number 9 is The Well in the Lighthouse. So that's also off of Neon Bible. This song is kind of told from the perspective of someone whose kind of decisions have led them to ruin, and it's kind of like very like imagery dense. It has a lot of like images of like literally a well in a lighthouse and this person kind of traversing their own mind, and it has a really fast-paced beat that like only breaks in the chorus, where the tempo completely changes, which I think is really cool. The guitar and the drums are all building, and then at the like I think it's at the end when the chorus actually comes in. The tempo completely changes, and it sounds really, really cool and complex. And there's a little bit of back and forth. I like during, I think every album they have a song where like the female is the lead vocalist.
Yes.
But in this one they kind of have a back and forth of the male and the female vocal, which I think is really cool. But yeah, that's The Well in the Lighthouse for my number 9.
All right, my number 9 is We Don't Deserve Love, off of Everything Now.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Or 16, 17? I don't know. I saw 17 on Spotify, and that's what I was using, but...
Oh, maybe it was 17.
Whatever.
Dates.
All right. So, this song is very interesting. It's a song for people that kind of look up only to find they've been, like, left behind, kind of. That's what the idea of the song is. And he uses, like, very high... Like, I think he does in a few of his songs, but this one particularly very biblical themes.
Yeah, that's a lot of his songs.
Yeah, of how
Neon Bible.
So he uses the biblical story how Mary returned to the tomb of Jesus only to find that he had already been resurrected and moved on. And then I found here that it said that when Butler goes on a path wondering whether there could be a God that still loves us despite all of our sins, however, that is not the central question he ends with. More importantly, he wants to know why we don't deserve love. If there is a God, if there is a God, he wants him to come off his cross and answer him. So he's kind of he's kind of pleading towards this theme of religion, and I found why, like, I found the lyrics.
It's in a very like philosophical way.
It is. It's very interesting. Like, that's actually why I like the song more or less. But like, while I find the songs, the lyrics and the storytelling very interesting of the whole song, of him telling the story of going through these or questions, I should say.
Yeah.
I love the mellow tone throughout the song. Actually, despite like the really heavy themes that he's trying to portray, it's a very mellow
If
song.
I remember, it picks up like right at one spot.
Yep.
They do that all the time.
Yep.
They're very like dynamic with their like the volume and the like intensity of the song.
I think it does for a little bit, but then it mellows back
It
out,
goes back down, yeah.
but then that tone like eases you through these philosophical questions, I think, and I think it's kind of massively done how they kind of did that. So that is "We Don't Deserve Love" for my number 9.
Nice.
All right.
And Everything Now did come out in 2017, just to clarify.
All right, number 7 for Spotify is
Number 8.
8 is what I meant to say. I think I wrote number 7 wrong too. That's why I looked at it. It's your number 10, but all right.
Yeah.
Number 8 is Neighborhood number 1, which I talked off a funeral. 31 million plays.
All right.
What is your number 8?
So my number 8 is Neighborhood number 4, which might be confusing because there are literally 4 songs that are Neighborhood, and then
that was on my honorable mentions. That one's on my
yeah, it's a good one. And it's parentheses 7 kettles. So it's kind of a reflection on like the inevitable passage of time, with a very simple metaphor. Like he uses the metaphor of like the watched pot, like you know how that's like a saying, like it won't ever boil, but he kind of twists that and says like, you know, even if you feel like you can like the pot's still gonna boil whether you're looking at it or not. Like time is still gonna pass whether you're focusing in on it or not, because some people, he kind of claims that they feel like they can stop time if they really like focus on one moment, but you can't. And I really love the melody in this song. The guitar, it has a really simple little riff that sounds really cool, and it sounds very like comforting with like the acoustic guitar. It has like the strings in the back that sound very restless, and I really like that. I think that kind of, you know, talks to the theme of not being able to control things around you. And yeah, I really like that one. Funeral is like, I mean, obviously it's an amazing album.
Yeah.
The individual songs I don't like quite as much as some of the other albums, but this one I liked a lot. So that's Neighborhood number 4 for my number 8.
All right, my number 8 is "We Used to Wait" off of The Suburbs, 2010, that came out. Rolling Stones named this song the 5th best song in 2010, apparently, and they
that's my number 7.
Okay, cool. They reminisce on simpler times when everything wasn't readily available to us and we had more time to ponder on our lives, kind of thing, where, you know, the classic theme of, you know, the technology, good or bad, kind of battle. And this song, more or less, I mean, I guess I'll say now, this is my favorite album out of all of them. This album's fantastic, awesome. This song I more picked for, I could have picked almost every song off that album, so I more picked this one for the, I think, their unique ideas that they were able to put into the themes of different songs.
Yeah.
And I love every song I think of them that I enjoy sounds fantastic, so, you know, I can rave about that the whole time. But I love the idea of this theme of them kind of like thinking that we had more time back in the day because there wasn't many busy things to do to ponder on what our lives either meant, either to ourselves or universally, and I found that theme fascinating.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that this was inspired by how he had like a romance with a girl, but just solely through letters when he was younger. And it was kind of about the way like he would just wait and wait and wait for this letter to come, and once he got it, like that whole feeling took up like the entire day. Like he was just immersed in this whole one thing.
Yeah.
Opposed to now, like that would never happen.
Yeah, I know, right?
The having like the anticipation of it all is kind of gone now with technology. It's just bam, instant.
Yeah, right.
But yeah.
Why don't you just continue to talk about it since this is your number 7?
Yeah, so it's also my number 7. We used to wait. And like you said, it's reminiscing on just like a simpler time when our lives weren't like completely consumed with technology, and kind of it talks about like the realness and some of the feelings that are lost now because of that. I feel like this one has a little bit more of like a garage rock sound to it, The drums are like a little bit more prominent, and I love like the almost like whimpering sound of the chorus when they say like, now our lives are changing fast, hope that something pure can last, and they kind of repeat those phrases.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Yeah.
That's like probably my favorite part of the song. And like you said, just the ideas are really interesting of how much like the world has changed in not that long of time. And the instant gratification that I feel like we don't even realize we're surrounded by. Because like when you're just like living now, it's hard to even think about like a time when this stuff wasn't around and not available to you, and like what you would have to do instead.
I think also the cool part about this song is like not saying, not even like agreeing with his viewpoint of it.
Technology's the worst.
Not even agreeing like yes or no to that, just how he
Yeah.
presents it is
No,
fascinating.
And that's one of the things I love about
throughout all their songs, but
Yeah,
this one particularly.
I mean, I'm a lyric gal, so I could really just dive into all the lyrics. I'm gonna try to keep it, not too intense with the lyrical analysis, but yeah, I feel like what he does best is like he takes a really simple idea or feeling and just like completely like complicates it and makes it into like a philosophical musing almost.
To where
So
like
he's not saying it's good or bad. He's just saying this is how it is.
and it's like
this
you
is how I
said,
feel about
like
it.
how you said, like this could have been off of one experience he had, but then he takes it and doesn't write the song about his personal experience. He uses the theme of that personal experience to write a song of a general
Makes
theme.
it very relatable.
So, all right, so that was my number 8 and your number 7.
Yeah, what's the Spotify number 7? Just so we
Used to wait was that last one we just talked about forever.
Yes.
Number 7 for Spotify is Put Your Money on Me. Everything Now, 37 million plays. I accidentally typed out Your Money on Me, so
nice.
no, it's Put Your Money on Me.
Your money on me.
So we're on to my number 7 now.
Yes.
A little mismatch out of order, but
We always do that. It always happens.
always happens. Mine is City with No Children. The Suburbs, 2010 came out. It is used. A city with no children is used as a metaphor for a city where its life is sucked out of it. Butler muses on the images of children, their details their destruction through war and a failing kind of systematical engine of society, or also simply forgetting who we once were. And there kind of lies the tragedy of the transition from going from childhood to adulthood, which he explores throughout the album, but more specifically in this song. And this is exactly the same reason I picked my last one is the same reason I picked this one. Is such a complex theme to throw into a song, and I found it fascinating. And like I said before, most of the songs sound, especially this album, to me, I love this whole album, so I'm not gonna. I wanted to pick more songs that I found. Either I like them obviously, but I think they all sound great. They sound good. But this one was fast. These last two have been more lyrically and themedly. I don't think that's a word.
Not a word.
I wanted it to be though. It seems like it would make sense. It's more fascinating to me. So that's my number 7. City with No Children.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, we are on to number 6.
Number 6.
Which I should have put it on one sheet for me. I'm just all over the place. All right, number 6 for Spotify is Sprawl 2. The Suburbs, 44 million plays.
I do like Sprawl 2 more than Sprawl 1.
What is your number?
So many of the albums, they have like 3 different songs that have the same title.
I know, right? What is your number 6?
My number 6 is Intervention. So that's off of Neon Bible.
We don't have a lot of crossover. We've had one, I think.
Yeah, I'm interested. So if you can't tell, my favorite album is Neon Bible by them. The Suburbs is a close second for me, but I really like Neon Bible. So this one has kind of themes of isolation and anti-society, and it's kind of about like the overzealousness towards religion, which Win Butler himself has said he isn't really about, quote unquote. And it's kind of like about someone who's putting like everything they have into their religion and the expense of everything else in their life, including like friendship and love. And I think this song and the rest of the album just has such interesting themes and ideas that aren't like often explored in
Mm-hmm.
music. Just like the lyrical depth in a lot of their songs is completely mesmerizing to me. I was just going to read some of the lyrics off of this one because I really love the lyrics. Um, so this is the chorus, I think. It says, "Working for the church while your family dies. You take what they give you and you keep it inside. Every spark of friendship and love will die without a home." And like it's just the I feel like the like we talked about the statements he's making about religion aren't necessarily like completely anti, but he just like tells all these different stories in this album
Mm-hmm.
about the ways that it could go wrong and
Yeah.
like that it could be detrimental potentially, and I think that's a really interesting idea. So that's Intervention for my number 6.
All right, my number 6 is Windowsill, also off of Neon Bible. This song is about watching everything kind of lose control. And then Wynn said that for the media motives of for the album itself were TV and ocean. He said ocean represents
Yeah,
the
I
lack
read
of
that.
control, and about the TV, he said that commercials and basically the point of view on the life from TV is affecting everyone, including him. Therefore, he can't handle to see that loss of control in his sight or the tide rising still.
Mm-hmm.
Along with the theme, very interesting and very interestingly themed song itself, and kind of going into the.
Yeah, you'll see this higher on my list. I enjoy
But
this song.
I love the soft voice that built in with the rising and lowering the tones that we kind of talked about. They do a lot in their songs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that was a window sill for my number 6.
All right.
Top 5.
Top 5. Here we go.
All right, number 5 for Spotify is Ready to Start off of Suburbs, 51 million.
Yeah, I that didn't make my list. It's kind of in my honorable mentions, but um, that one I think would be really fun to listen to live. Like that one would be really cool. I've seen kind of performances of them do that one live, and it's
Yeah,
very
we'll talk.
intense.
Don't worry, we'll talk about the song
All right,
again. So,
cool, cool, cool.
what is your number 5?
My number 5 is Crown of Love, and that is off of Funeral. So it's kind of a slow burning ballad, and it's an expression of love's guilt that it's kind of like it's always like building in this song, and eventually like it explodes into basically a dance section. It's really cool. It still has like the really like melodramatic strings, but you can really feel like the mix of like almost optimism and despair that I think defines this whole album. I mean, it's kind of like this, like they're hopeful for the future, but also like sad about stuff that
Mm-hmm.
happened in the past, and I think that's really interesting. I really really love the chorus of this. It says, "If you still want me, please forgive me. The crown of love has fallen from me," and just the way he says it, it sounds so like emotional and sad, and I love the sound of this one. I think more than anything, but that is Crown of Love for my number 5.
All right, my number 5 is Wake Up off of Funeral. The beginning just builds up to this like amazingly like super emotional song actually. That is like a great simple but complicated story. Talking about like hard questions
Yeah.
in life, you know, talking about death, talking about very difficult themes that but they make it such a like an emotionally great song to get through that it's almost an experience, and I really
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed this song. I never heard it before. Well, I think I recognized like the beginning,
Oh, okay.
but I'd never listened to it. So that was Wake Up with my number 5.
All right.
Number 4 for the Spotify is Rebellion off of Funeral, 72 million plays. I was actually not a fan of that song.
Yeah, that one's okay.
But I was like, man, that's really popular.
It is really popular, yeah.
What is your number 4?
My number 4 is Wasted Hours off of The Suburbs. And this one, it really is just about like those times when you're young that you have just way too much time in
Yeah.
your hands and nothing to do. Which I think is a super relatable theme.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of, when you're looking back and you're feeling like it went way too fast, even though in the moment it was like
Yeah.
you're literally doing nothing. And this song makes you feel like, to me, it makes you feel like you're biking around like your childhood neighborhood, and it just creates like such a feeling of like nostalgia and longing for a simpler time, which this whole album is really steeped in like the feeling of nostalgia, and I don't know how they captured that in a sound, but they definitely like do.
I would agree.
Like with this and the song "The Suburbs," I feel like they just sound like back when you were a kid, and I don't know how they accomplished that. It's really amazing.
I think they like subconsciously do it too with like all the themes of like childhood and like literally the suburbs, you know, the typical, especially us being from the US, the typical like American suburbs that a lot of people some people are from, and then that's where you get the nostalgic childhood.
It just creates like a whole image. But this one also, it sounds very like calming and like reassuring almost. I like they use a lot of acoustic guitar, which not that is unheard of in indie music. Like it's more like indie folk, but they use it in a very like indie rock way a lot of the times, and I really like that. So this is Wasted Hours for my number 4.
All right, my number 4 is No Cars Go off of Neon Bible, 2007. It tells of a late-night escapism from a world dominated by cars and planes. It's a fast-paced, epic anthem that builds to a very joyful climax, I thought. And it's a really fun song. That's how I described it. It's a fun song.
It is a great song.
It's like one of their songs, like there's a couple on their list that, like, granted I didn't try to dig too deep into the lyrical meaning, which I'm sure there's more deep. Do you have this on your list or no?
No, I don't. Okay. It's on my honorable mentions, but
I'm sure there's like actual like. But I just found this song super fun.
When they just yell like "No cars, go!" Like that's so empowering. Like it's so exciting. I feel like that.
It is, and
some of the other stuff.
Yeah, and I just found the song so fun, and I know he's probably talking about escaping from the hustle and bustle of everyday life that dominated by these ideas of travel or these ideas of consumerism. I'm sure that's what he's going for, but something like that. But I love the song. It's a very fun song, and that's my number 4, No Cars Go.
All right.
On to number 3.
Number
3 is Everything Now off of the Everything Now album.
Okay.
With 89 million plays.
I did like that song. I think I heard it too much on the radio when it came out because it was kind of, fell on deaf ears.
I didn't. It wasn't like terrible, but
I think the concept of that album's interesting. How like there's so much like stimulus happening all the time. I think one of the lyrics in that song is like all the songs I've ever heard playing at the same time. It's absurd or something like that. So there's a song called Infinite Content. Okay. Which is like I feel like the themes are interesting, but the sound of the album didn't quite grab me.
I agree. All right. What is your number 3?
My number 3 is Antichrist Television Blues. Which, first of all, what a badass song title. I just love that. So this song, I didn't know this until I looked it up.
What album is it off?
Oh, that's off of Neon Bible, of course. Of course. But it's apparently actually about Joe Simpson, who's the father of Jessica Simpson, and he was like the inspiration for the narrator of the song. So it's kind of from like a different perspective. It's not just Win Butler's perspective, but it's based on Joe Simpson's relationship with his daughter, and kind of tells the story of a man who considers himself a really like pious Christian person, but begins using his daughter for fame and money, and like eventually basically sexually exploiting her, and that like kind of causes him to doubt his faith. And I love this song. I love the whole sound of it. He does this thing where he like repeats the first 2 lines in every verse, and he kind of does that in Windowsill too. He uses repetition to really like sound kind of like anxious and like restless. And I love the acoustic guitar and the whole rhythm of this. And it just, to me, it like evokes a whole sense of like unraveling throughout. Like the narrator is completely just unraveling, as he like thinks his whole life is like about one thing, but it basically is the opposite of that. And I think it's a really cool story. And I didn't know any of the background of like what it was inspired by.
That's interesting.
That's Antichrist Television Blues for my number 3.
All right, my number 3 is The Suburbs off of The Suburbs, 2010.
That's my number 2.
Well, we can just talk back to back again.
All right.
Here we go. It's about it's concerned with growing up but it isn't like a fictional necessarily story. It's about the band members Wind and Will Butler's childhood in suburb Texas. They describes it as neither a love letter to nor indictment of the suburbs. It's a letter from the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a I think this is a very different song for them because they used how we literally talked about how they a lot of their songs they take themes experiences from their life and kind of generalize the theme and write a song about it.
Yeah.
This one they took the experience and wrote the song about the experience itself.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So that's
which I think is why it feels very real.
It does. And why I kind of like this album so much is that I think this song especially it has such like it's like a very like fun sounding song and it has such a re-listen to potential to it.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think a lot of these times with like a lot of these artists that we do, a lot of albums can be great, but it's like you still need a couple songs that have this re-listen potential to it to get you back into it, and this song's one of them.
And there's honestly so much going on lyrically that like you would need a couple listens just to like comprehend like all the different like motions and themes that are going on.
But it does this where it sounds like a radio hit, but it has such a complex story being told from. It's it's a really good song.
I know. I love the idea of like the suburban war and like I love when he says all the houses that built in the 70s finally fall. Like it's just so I don't even know what that is, but it's like it's amazing. It's
and
literally crazy.
That beginning is just I think like this was one of the two songs I knew going in, and it's like you hear it, you're like, oh man.
Yes, yeah. So I guess I'll just talk a little bit more about it. But so my number 2 is also The Suburbs off of the album of the same title, and like it kind of exposes some of like the darkness and like hidden fears of like childhood and the suburbs. That and it also introduces the a lot of the themes of the album, the rest of the album, which are like war and youth and the loss of innocence. And it was kind of inspired when Win Butler was sent a photograph of like an old school friend who was standing with his daughter sitting on his shoulders at the mall around the corner from where they lived. And from that photograph, it just kind of sparked this whole idea of kind of revisiting the suburbs and like where he grew up. Because where did he grow up? Like the suburbs in Texas.
Texas, yeah.
I think before that he lived, like when he was really young, he lived in the mountains somewhere like near Nevada.
Okay.
And then they moved to the suburbs, so it was a very like transitional, very like different world. And something about the chord progression just like feels nostalgic, and it's like it's almost like a little bit unhinged also, and like apocalyptic.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know, it's so weird. I've played this on guitar a few times, and it's like it follows like a normal chord progression, and then just has like an E minor, and it just completely sounds like just a little off kilter. So it's like it's almost like the childhood is completely about like the innocence, and then something just is slightly different, almost like he's like looking at it like a memory, like he's looking back at it. So it's like it's not quite the same.
It's
as
almost
when
like
it happened.
a 1950 theme to a suburb, but like a child that's looking through. Like, okay, there's a video game, Fallout.
Yeah.
So it's very like the 1950s base, but there was a nuclear war. So it's kind of like what I imagine this song is like that, like child looking back, and it's a film reel kind of thing playing of the 1950s kind of idea of a suburb.
Yeah.
But then still devastation happening with, say, a nuclear bomb or something.
Yes.
And that it cuts to like the neighborhood
or something. It's almost trying to cut through like the rose-colored glasses that you have when you're a child. Like he's trying to like look back at it and see it like how it felt, but also how it actually was. It's so complex. It's so interesting.
It's like he's dreaming about the suburbs, but not quite realizing he's dreaming. And the longer he's looking at it, he's realized there's something a little off.
Yeah, it creates this whole like atmosphere and experience. I'm not gonna lie, it's crazy. Like you have to go listen to this song. But I was just gonna read some of my favorite lyrics because I mean, I gotta read some lyrics because
True.
this song is crazy. So it says, under the overpass in the parking lot, we're still waiting. It's already passed. So move your feet from hot pavement into the grass, because it's already passed. It's already passed. Like, oh, that's just so cool. I just love that song. But yeah, that's my number 2.
My number 3,
Suburbs.
The Suburbs. So I guess we will do Spotify and then
Yeah,
my number
we'll
2.
backtrack to the Spotify number 2.
Spotify number 2 is Wake Up off of Funeral with 95 million plays. Do you know what's number 1? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well, for you or for the list?
No, the list.
Yeah, I know what the list number 1 is.
All right, number 2 for me is.
I have no idea what your number 1 is. I thought it was gonna be the Suburbs, so I'm very interested.
So my 4 through probably 3 through 1, 4 through 1 was hard.
I feel like you always say that.
I always say it because I like it's my mood.
It gets to the nitty gritty and then
I'll explain why I like the number 1
Okay.
the best probably, but so number 2 was a song I've never heard before, and it's "Keep the Car Running" off of Neon Bibles. Holy crap, I love this song. It was number 22 in the Rolling Stones list of the 100 best songs 2007. It's the second track off of Neon Bible, and is generally about like not giving up or keeping the car running.
Yeah.
Butler himself has noted that the Orwellian or George Orwell there's references of him throughout the song.
Okay.
Because the song paints of a picture in a dystopian land where commercialism and the oppression
Speaking
rules.
is also hard.
And oppressions rule, and the protagonist is trying to escape from it. So I also think the song is just super upbeat and just fun throughout the song. That's like the same thing as the Suburbs to me, where it has such a complex theme that he's trying to explore, but he just makes it such a fun song that, like, I honestly, the first bit I heard, I don't know why, I thought of Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, really?
Because I think it's just that, like, weird, like, upbeat, you know, when right when he says you were born to run, or baby we were born to run, like that little upbeat, I just heard that like briefly. It was like keep the car running. It was like, it was weird. My brain just did like, what the heck? But I absolutely love this song. I was so happy that I found listened to this song and discovered the song. It's such a great song.
Yeah.
And so that was my number 2, keep the car running.
All right.
Should we do some honorable mentions before saying the one?
Let's do it. So my honorable mentions are Keep the Car Running, obviously. Ready to Start, Electric Blue, which is one of those songs that Regine sings that are really good. I actually really enjoyed the songs that she does. They're a little bit like, not like a break from the album, but they just kind of take you out and like give you a little bit of perspective. I don't know. They always sound very cool and catchy.
They do, but I also think she has like such a good voice that they didn't use her
enough
well.
Yeah.
Like well enough.
Yeah, which I don't know.
You know what I mean?
remember what instrument she plays, but she
has like a really good voice. So it's like I think they could have gave her a couple better songs.
Yeah.
And that I think if they would have done, I agree that some of them, I don't like all of them just because I don't like the direction of the songs that they went, because it's kind of is a break and I wasn't expecting that, so like it kind of hit you.
I feel like I've listened to them so many times that I'm like, yeah, I like this kind of fresh.
For me, it was like I wasn't. I like her voice is awesome, but I think they should have themed them a little different than what they did.
That's fair.
But I guess that was so sorry. Where were you in?
Electric Blue. It's off of Everything Now.
Is that your last one?
No, and then I have No Cars Go and My Body Is a Cage.
All right, mine is Suburban War off of the Suburbs. Neighborhood Number 4 off of Funeral. Creative Comfort off of Everything Now.
Comfort?
Sorry, is it Creature Comfort? It might be. I might have just typed creative for some reason.
I'm pretty sure it's Creature Comfort.
And then Reflector off of Reflector. I don't know why I always said.
I don't like Reflector at all.
That's the only song I liked off that album, really.
The Night Comes, or The Night Still Comes, or something like that. I like that song. That's not too bad, but... Or Here Comes the Nighttime? I don't know what it's called.
Like, I wanted to put at least one from... So,
I
my,
like that one.
before, my last one is Good Goddamn off of Everything Now.
I like that one, too. That was pretty good.
So, alright. Number one
Number one.
for the
Spotify.
Spotify.
I'm assuming it's the suburbs.
It is the suburbs.
Okay.
Only 2 million more though than Wake Up.
Oh, okay.
So 97 million plays for Spotify. What is your
Gotcha.
number one?
My number one is Windowsill.
Okay.
So that's off of Neon Bible. You talked about that one a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of about like watching everything lose control, and like you said, there's like images of like TV and the ocean, and I mean that comes up a lot in that album.
It does, yeah.
Ocean of Noise is literally a song. But
Good
I
song,
just
too.
is a great song, yeah. But I just love, so the whole song basically he repeats the phrase "I don't want to" and then like says something that kind of resembles the the modern age almost, like the kind of things that he doesn't want to change but are inevitably going to change. And it just creates this amazing tension that like finally breaks in like the chorus. But yeah, it's so good. I love how it starts very soft too, and it becomes gradually louder and almost gets like bigger and bigger like the tide would, because it, the chorus is, the tide is high and it's rising still, I don't want to see it at my windowsill. So it's almost like this wave of like change and progress that's going to hit him, but he just wants to not have it hit him as long as possible. And I just absolutely love the sound of this song. I've played this also on guitar and it's really fun to play. But yeah, that's Windowsill for my number one.
All right, my number one. Do you have a guess? Did you see it?
I did not see it, and I have no idea. It's got to be from the suburbs.
It is. So
is it ready to start?
It is ready to start. So this is the only song besides the suburbs that I knew going in.
Gotcha.
And
I
randomly found it on like one of my suggested, and I absolutely love the sound of it. The song itself, I think, is a very like '90s theme. It's almost cliche at this moment in time.
Yeah.
A little bit, but I think it's a very like '90s, early 2000s. So the song is like a cry to the every average person who has a boss to like rise up, against their boss. And well, it's like, well, maybe it's not like that dramatic, but like it goes on to the themes of like the classic office cubicle life and telling you to quote open your mind and step out into the dark and be ready to start living out like your own passions in life.
Yeah, almost trying to like begin your life again, basically.
I don't like the theme is interesting enough, but I just love the whole sound of the song, the whole catchiness of the song. This is a song I probably listened to 200 times this year. When I found it like earlier this year, I found the song. So, or more, even listened to more than that, I don't know, but absolutely love the sound of the song, and definitely had to pick one from Suburbs because
that's your favorite.
All right, so before we so that was my number one. Ready to start? Let's run it back real quick.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about our closing thoughts.
Yes. So my number 10 is Put Your Money on Me. My number 9 is The Well in the Lighthouse. My number 8 is Neighborhood 4, Seven Kettles. My number 7 is We Used to Wait. My number 6 is Intervention. My number 5 is Crown of Love. My number 4 is Wasted Hours. My number 3 is Antichrist Television Blues. My number 2 is The Suburbs. And my number 1 is Windowsill.
All right, my number 10 is Neighborhood Number 1, Tunnels. My number 9 is We Don't Deserve Love. My number 8 is We Used to Wait. My number 7 is City with No Children. My number 6 is Windowsill. My number 5 is Wake Up. My number 4 is No Cars Go. My number 3 is The Suburbs. My number 2 is Keep the Car Running. My number 1 is Ready to Start. Every time you said I've got all my money, or I got
Put Your Money on Me,
I kept thinking of I've got all my money on you. I feel like $1 million.
I don't know that song.
You don't know? It's called $1 Million. Oh, never mind. It was like I like
it's just playing in your head.
It's playing in my head.
It's got its own radio going on.
It does. All right, so
I guess what were your closing ending thoughts?
So, I guess album wise, I think The Suburbs is my favorite. I think Neon Bible was my second favorite, and then Funeral was my third. But I think Neon Bible, Funeral, a lot like very close. I think I could flip them out. I think like you said, I might have liked Funeral as an album more and liked more individual songs than Neon Bible.
Yeah.
You kind of said that earlier. But
And
I was very surprised. Like, Suburbs, Funeral, Neon Bible, honestly, might be in my top 25 albums I've ever heard.
they're like incredible
Yeah,
as like a cohesive whole. They're also really good. They're I don't know, are they technically concept
I
albums?
don't know.
I don't
I
really
think his
know,
whole
but like
writing, that's just his writing style, though. So
yes,
I don't even
he just kind
know.
of latches onto these themes
Yeah,
and it
because it's
carries through the
like,
whole album.
and they're like just so, I think they're almost like so dramatic that they almost can't be concept albums
Yeah.
because they are pretty dramatic. His themes
Yes.
are because they're not very centralized on, as we talked about before. They're based on grandiose
They're always
ideas.
dealing with very serious
Yeah.
real stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where like everything now I so going through my albums that I liked, Neon Bible is definitely my favorite. Suburbs is probably second, and then Funeral. I enjoy everything now, I think, for what it is, but not as an Arcade Fire album, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
Like if
liked
that came out from someone else, I think I would enjoy it because it's just so different and it sounds like
I
interesting.
liked it better than Reflector.
Except Chemistry, I hate that song. That song could go die in a hole. I did not like that song.
Yeah.
It felt like so, I don't know, not Arcade Fire.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Reflector I wasn't a fan of. It didn't, I don't know, it never connected with me like the other
Mm-hmm.
ones did.
I also think Arcade Fire I still think they're like for how popular they are, they're not really that popular.
No, I
Like
mean
they're
it's every indie band's
it is
conundrum.
it is.
You could be the most popular indie band in the world and still not be popular. In
But
the
like even if you
traditional
just look
sense.
on like basic plays on Spotify, they don't
Mhm.
have like the Lumineer numbers, which
And
is a more mainstream indie band, I would say,
yeah.
like nowadays. So
Mhm.
and I think their music and writing is some of the best. Like those first three albums are some of the best
Yeah.
things I've heard as a first three album. Like compare it to stuff we've done this year, it'd be like taking like how Jimi Hendrix had three fantastic albums. That's all we had,
Mhm.
but they just pumped out three freaking great albums to
Yeah,
begin with.
I think their lyrics and like the themes are just so introspective and reflective of like the reality that we live in, and also just like feelings and emotions that I feel
Yeah.
like don't pay attention to, that these people like completely nailed stuff that everyone feels but like don't really think about it too often.
I also think what makes the songs like great is that they're able to do that, but also like if you don't want to pay attention, you don't have to, and you can still enjoy the shit out of the song.
Yes, because the songs themselves are
Like,
also incredible, like musicianship
yep.
behind it. Like the
They're not very like most of them aren't like like they can be slow, but they will have something upbeat and tempo's always changing. It keeps you on your toes, even if you don't want to pay attention to the lyrics, which not everyone does. Some people listen to music for all different reasons.
How
But
dare you?
how dare you not listen to all the lyrics? But
Yeah,
but you can turn your brain off and just listen through an album, and you'll have
because they
enjoy.
still sound great.
Yep, they sound great.
Yeah, and I feel like that's when I like get kind of annoyed when people like categorize them as the classic hipster like band, because I feel like that just that
Now
doesn't
they're different because I think
that doesn't give them credit for like the beauty of the music that they're creating.
yeah, they also like I wouldn't even consider them like the classic hipster band, which because like we talked about literally this whole episode, it should be the name of the episode, the theme of how they wrote songs about using personal experiences to write grander songs about ideas, not writing about the personal experiences. Where I think a lot of your classic quote unquote hipster indie bands just write about some weird personal experience
Yeah.
to to that's what they bank their buck on for being super popular. But here they explore the more grandiose questions, I think, in life,
They
and
definitely
it's very
have
interesting.
they definitely have a knack for like of taking the personal and making it completely universal.
Well, that wraps up another episode of New Old and Songs Untold.
Yes.
I don't know, episode 31, 32.
Kind of sweaty after that one.
That was a good conversation.
Got
Good one to
very
be back
riled up.
on. It was a good one to get back on. Follow us on our social medias at Songs Untold on Instagram and Twitter, YouTube. Subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment. Let us know what you guys think of Arcade Fire. Have you heard of them? do you have a favorite song by them?
Yeah.
iTunes listeners, or if you not on iTunes, go and please
Give
rate
us a
us
5-star
5-star
review.
rating and write a comment in there too. That really helps out quite a bit.
Yeah.
Where are all our songs, since you know where they all are?
The New Old and Songs Untold podcast playlist on Spotify is where you can hear the songs that we were just talking about if you want to hear them for yourself.
So crazy enough, we only got about we're doing 4 episodes technically, I think, or 5 episodes for what will close out 2020.
Yes.
Since we took a little 2-week hiatus, we will be releasing 2 episodes this week.
Mm-hmm.
This episode comes out on a Wednesday, and we're going to try to release that next one probably on
probably the weekend. It's
Friday or Saturday. That weekend we'll record it probably Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, and that one will be Waylon Jennings.
Waylon Jennings.
So if you're not into indie music, we're doing a complete 360.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty excited to talk about Waylon Jennings. I have some thoughts already. So at the week after that, we actually don't have anything planned yet. We will release something. It will be your birthday week.
It will be.
Your birthday week that week.
I forgot about that.
So I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do yet.
Should I make you listen to like my favorite album?
That's what I thought. I thought maybe we'll do a birthday special for Anna that
fun.
week. The week after that, though, we'll be releasing our top 10 favorite Christmas songs.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get that out before Christmas.
Yeah, that'll
hopefully
be fun.
we'll try to shoot the Tuesday the 22nd, I think.
Okay.
So it gives you guys a couple days to listen, because I don't know. A lot of people like me, once Christmas is over, Christmas music is kaput.
It is dead to you.
I love Christmas music, but once the 26th comes, we don't need to hear it for another year. So the week after that, we are going to be doing a wrap up of our podcast. The 6 months we've been doing for 6 months already.
Yeah, crazy. So we're kind of gonna go through all the songs we listened to and talked about on the podcast and pick our top 10, 20. I don't know. We haven't.
Yeah, probably 20. We'll probably do 20 because we're not going to sit there and talk about each of those songs since we already did that.
Yes.
So it'll be more of a rapid fire and kind of wrap up of the year. Kind of a thank you to you guys for listening, and we've had a lot more people listen to this than I ever thought would. So
true. Yes.
And then the first week of 2021, that's crazy to think about, is going to be a wrap up of 2020 music.
Yeah, so we're going to go through music that came out in 2020 and kind of just pick our favorites and talk about them.
So that's the rest of the year for our podcast. We appreciate you guys listening like always, and have a good rest of your week.